The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Welcome back to the Secrets of Technology podcast. I'm Kim Commando, America's digital goddess, and I never miss an episode.
You're listening to the Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to the Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Father Andrew Kinstetter. Hi, Father Andrew.
Hello there.
And Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Dom.
Yes, and speaking of technology, folks, Joanne and I we live near each other, and we're both sitting underneath giant thunderstorms that are passing overhead. I lost power for like 2 seconds before we started recording, so who knows if this podcast will ever get finished and will complete. But that is I want to give a tip: battery backups. We've talked about them before. Saves my bacon. I have the computer on the battery backup. That will help me out. If power goes out, the computer doesn't have to reboot, all that sort of stuff. So I just have to wait for the internet to come back. So battery backups.
Lucky man.
Yes. Well, thank you to patrons, because you pay for the equipment that helps us keep doing this. So I want to start with a little bit of listener feedback. We got an email from Melanie, not my wife Melanie, but a different Melanie, who said, "You mentioned on the most recent episode that you use Plex to stream your home movies. I'd love to hear more about how you do this. I've heard of Plex, but since I don't have a large DVD collection and my DVD player still works, I haven't looked into it. However, being easily able to watch home movies would be appreciated by my entire family, and if Plex can help make this happen, then I need to check it out." Yeah, Melanie, so the Plex for home movies is pretty much the same as it is for movies and TV shows. There's you need a place where the Plex app runs, the server runs. So whether it's a network attached storage or it's a extra computer in your house or something along those lines, and then you run the Plex server software, and then there would be a directory or folder on that either computer or NAS that would be labeled. There's usually 3 that Plex set up: videos, TV, and home video. And so you just, anything that you want to show up as a home video to play through your TV or through the Plex app, and if you have a Apple TV or Roku or a Chromecast, you can play it there, or Amazon Fire. You can play it on your regular TV. You just drop those home video files in the folder that's labeled home video, and then Plex will just pick them up automatically. You go into the Plex app, you navigate to the home video section, and you'll see them all there. So it's pretty simple like that, right? Am I missing anything?
No, but another added advantage is that you can also download these videos to your iPad if you want to take it with you on a trip, if you're going someplace where you can't get connectivity, if you want to take them when you go see family to show them the home videos. So you've got that ability to do that. Just remember when you label these things, movies are easier than TV shows.
Right.
TV shows require a little bit more work.
Because you got to do season and episode. Yeah, and home videos, like if your home videos are already in like iCloud, they'll already be on your phone and your iPad, you know, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So the benefit here is if you have Plex through your TV, then you can, you know, on a holiday, 4th of July is coming up, you could have a big, you know, the TV playing the home videos as when your home family's over visiting or having a pool party, something, that sort of thing.
Just to clarify, is my understanding correct that the kind of the draw for the Plex would be is that you're storing these locally, so you're not downloading them, streaming them from the internet like Netflix or something, but it's a local thing that's just streaming from your computer to your TV. So there's no lag. You know, if you don't have internet, you can still do a home network and stream to the TV.
Exactly.
And so I, you know, that's kind of helpful in my mind to differentiate that, because I just use iTunes and Apple TV shows and movies, but that's strictly streaming, not it's on my local hard drive.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I I like have ripped a bunch of my old DVDs. I have a box of DVDs in a closet. I've ripped all those and the Blu-rays and TV shows. I've got 7 seasons of Lost. I get all that on my Plex because it's easier than hauling out a DVD or a Blu-ray. But I also have all the tons of these videos that these short videos. Even just the stuff that came off of my camera roll. Just like 30 seconds of this, that, and the other thing. They're all on there. But if you have videos that you've edited together, you can put those in there too. And you can categorize them and organize them. Yeah. It's and that's the benefit is it's local, it's here, it's on it's on your network. Yeah,
many of us didn't want to rebuy streaming stuff that we already had.
Right.
So it's just easier to do it this way.
Yeah, for the TV shows and movies. Yep. Awesome. Excellent. So thank you, Melanie, for your email and your feedback. We love getting feedback from listeners, and hopefully that helped out. I want to switch to talking about our primary segment for our primary topic for today, which is pet technology. Now, I'm not a pet owner. We can't have dogs, which is to my chagrin because I love dogs. But or cats. I like cats too, but we can't have pets with hair. So I'm going to turn to my 2 pet owner co-hosts here. Joanne, I know you've had a dog. And 3 dogs, okay. And Father Richard, you recently became a pet owner, right?
Correct. Yeah. I had some friends who had a 4-year-old blue heeler, and they have a 1.5-year-old, and Piper the dog just couldn't handle Gianna crying, and so they offered her to me. And as a pastor, I'm able to have a dog, and this is kind of the only situation that I would say yes, because she was already house trained, and she already knows me. And, I don't have time to train a puppy. So I said yes. And I was very interested in what kind of pet tech there is out there.
Yes, because, we're geeks. Every new thing that comes into our life, we have to figure out a way to get technology involved in it. So, yeah.
And I grew up with dogs. We had border collies when I was a kid, but none of that was tech related at all. It was, I was the dog feeder, or,
right.
It was
exactly.
There's no automation here.
You were the pet GPS. Doggy! Right. Rover! Well, let's talk about some pet technology as we get into this, because I'm sure both of you have either bought some or have been looking into it. So let's talk about that particular question right up front, the pet tracking. That's a big thing now. Again, when I was a kid, we had dogs and cats, and we didn't have tracking. And there's microchipping and that sort of thing today. But there's also find my dog sort of stuff, like Find My Phone. What's out there for helping people find their dog if it gets out, or their cat?
Yeah, so I this was kind of the first thing that I started to look into. And I kind of asked some friends who were very much in the know on this sort of thing. And the general consensus was that the best kind of GPS collar out there would be a collar called Fi. That's Fi. And so the idea behind it is that it's a GPS collar. So it's not it doesn't connect your Wi-Fi, but it uses GPS signals, and it will track your dog. And, if you're going for a walk, it'll point out if you're going for a walk. In fact, on Piper, it tells me how many steps she puts in, so she can she can compete. Yeah, she can compete with all the other blue heelers out there, and she's ranked, so there's a social thing to it too, which is okay, whatever. But the key thing there is that you set up a GPS kind of fence, if you will. And if that collar goes outside of the fence, it will recognize if it's near your phone. So it knows that, you're taking Piper out for a walk and you're the owner. Or like my parents were here this past weekend, and I kept getting notifications on my phone because my mom was taking Piper out for a walk. And every time she'd leave the rectory, it was Piper is at such and such street without an owner. And so you get notifications if they leave that vicinity. And of course, I knew my mom was walking her, so no big deal. But there's also so you get notifications, and you can have a lost dog mode that it'll try to track that, and you can use that to find your dog. So it's just really helpful if you have a dog that's potentially prone to escaping and running away,
or a valuable dog.
Right. The downside of this is that it is pricey. It's $150 for the collar itself. And then it's $100 a year for a subscription for the GPS tracking. If you buy multiple years, it's cheaper. But so that's the only downside. The other option that I potentially was going to go into and I didn't was it was also suggested using like Apple AirTags or even Tile. And in fact, one of my picks will relate to this at the end of the show. But the problem with the Apple AirTags in my particular situation is that they can be problematic in more rural areas because they're using other Apple devices to try to locate. So I didn't want to go down that road. So I went with the Fi, and it's probably overkill for me, but I guess you could consider Piper my little kiddo, if you will. So I kind of told everybody as I was getting her, I was like, okay, she is going to get spoiled. So
yes.
Besides my nieces and nephews and godchildren, but
yes.
So
no, that's what happens with dogs. You end up spoiling them. But
Right.
And believe me, over 30 years, we've had 3 of them, and I'd say 2 were spoiled, 1 was not, because we learned after a while. But I think the Fi collar looks like it's the smartest thing because the GPS is built into the collar itself. As somebody who has seen her dogs chew her tags, I would be really concerned with Apple AirTag or Tile, because they can get at those tags on their collars when they're bored. And she chewed her, all 3 chewed their rabies tags and their identification tags. So this collar looks to be, the $100 a year, with everything else you spend, all the other money you spend on toys, treats, and then the regular food
$8 a month,
stuff.
that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I think it sounds like it's well worth it. It sounds like something I would look into with our next one, because it doesn't matter if they're prone to running or what we call being an escape artist, but sometimes they just get spooked, or sometimes there are foxes or other animals in the area.
And they chase. Yeah.
Piper will see a squirrel and just go after it.
And
So,
there you go.
Squirrel.
Yep.
Squirrel.
and the Fi sounds like a better a solution than the AirTag or the Tile, because like you said, those depend on other things being nearby, other technology being close by to help you track it, and they don't tell you when the dog or cat goes outside the geo fence. So it feels. I wonder if I can get one for the kids. Never mind. So that's why I give them an iPhone.
True.
So okay, good. So tracking technology. Let's. How about another one? A lot of times, I mean, the past year, people have been working from home. They got their pets nearby, but when we go back to work or where we have to go out places, sometimes we worry about what they're doing at home and that sort of thing. What technology is there for that when we leave our pets at home?
Now, I've used the Wise Cams especially as my dogs got older and they were not feeling well, so I wanted to check in on them. They're very small. And now I've been reading up on them. I have a 1st generation one. The 3rd generation now is beginning to recognize dogs and cats from humans.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
From packages, because it'll do all that other kind of stuff too.
It could do facial rec before, but now it can do pet recognition. Nice.
Now it can do pet. So they're very inexpensive. I think they run like $29, $32.
Yeah, they're really inexpensive. They're not cheap Chinese knockoffs that you can't be sure of the security of them. They are well attested to having good security. Yeah, I've got a Wise Cam myself. It's really good. Right,
and they have a feature now called Cam Plus. For $1.25 a month, you get unlimited video. So it will continually video what's going on. Believe me, it's probably going to be your dog sleeping for 24 hours, for like 12 hours while you're gone, or running around or listening to somebody in the house and it wants to start moving. But no, it gave me peace of mind, especially when mine was ill, because I had one that used to have, she used to do convulsions, epileptic seizure type things. So yeah, it was good that we knew what was going on.
Okay.
Yeah, my take on that. I don't have a Wise, and that does sound interesting. I don't think I'm going to get it though, because Piper's with me almost all the time, and she's in the office with me, and I try not to travel too much. So I was trying to think of a way, like if I wanted to do this without buying a specific camera. My mind immediately went to the fact that I have an Echo Show, and so I figured, because I have it set up to do the drop-in feature. It could totally work as a similar thing. So if you have a Echo Show, you could just set the Echo Show near where little Piper's going to be hanging out all the time, and then you drop in on her, because it doesn't need someone on the recipient side to activate the camera. So, and then it does do audio as well. So you could, I feel like that's sort of like, I don't know, like unauthentic. Like I want to, like if I'm going to talk to Piper, I want to pet her. Like I would feel like my voice would just make her want to come find me. And
yeah, that can be the Wise Cam lets you talk to. Mm-hmm. And I tried it once, and the poor thing just went crazy. Yeah, so like, forget it. I'm never doing that again.
Right.
But either way, you can still just drop in and check them out and see what's going on.
That's a good idea. Yeah, if you've already got an Echo Show, they have cameras built in. That's a good solution without buying extra stuff. How about fun toys that you can get for your pets? Dogs or cats or whatever. But I guess we're concentrating a lot on dogs. Some of this is good for cats too, like the cameras and the collars and that sort of stuff. But what do we have for fun with the pets?
Well, one thing I saw, because I was looking through some lists, was this device called an iFetch. And it has a companion now called iDig. And I've had Karen Terriers. They like to dig. So the iDig is now looking appealing. But what the iFetch does is that you teach your dog how to take, they love tennis balls. Dogs love tennis balls. It's the cheapest piece of technology you could buy for the dog. They'll bring them back. And what you do is you teach the dog to drop it in the hole of this container, and then it immediately shoots it back out again, because dogs love to play fetch. They do and they love to run after the tennis ball. So this is for people who don't have the time sometimes to do that, and this will keep the dog apparently amused for hours.
Or just don't want to touch the gross tennis ball.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I know.
I'd totally buy this if I had a dog.
And then the iDig works in a lot the same way, where it's a disc that they can kind of get into, and underneath it you put treats and toys and things that they can find.
Okay.
So if you're trying to keep them a little bit more quiet but still occupied, that especially if they're an older dog, that seems to be so. I'm definitely going to invest in the iDig if I get another dog.
Yeah,
because it'll be another Karen Terrier again. But these two looked very interesting. I did see one called Wicked Bone. And it's sort of along the same premise, where the bone sort of acts on its own, and it tries to entice the dog. But then I saw pictures of dogs who had not treated the bone very well.
Yeah.
Look, a tennis ball is easier to replace than $199 Wicked Bone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could see that they were eating the plastic and stuff like that. Like, no, some dogs have really strong jaws, and they can go through stuff like that. So tennis balls are a little easier.
Yeah, so far I haven't bought any tech gadgets or toys per se, and I tend to think, I guess along the lines of you, Joanne, that I don't want to spend something that expensive just to have it kind of chewed up. Piper doesn't really fetch. I mean, she would probably go chase a tennis ball, but she's not like a go fetch and bring it back and kind of thing. She would rather sit on the floor and pull out all the stuffing of every toy.
Oh.
And she doesn't eat it. She just like pulls out all the stuffing, so I'm not sure if I would get any of these kind of things.
Is that breed a digger? Do they dig?
She doesn't. I don't think so. At least she doesn't. She is like primarily an indoor dog. So she goes outside to do her thing, and then she comes back in. She doesn't really hang out outside. So, so for me, it's more just giving her things to do in the house. And some of that is almost just kind of the old fashioned tech, that like the toys, or, sticking peanut butter in the little I forget what it's called. It's a little kind of rubber toy that has a hole on the inside. You stick
Kong.
Yeah, you stick the peanut butter in there, and then she's gonna go at that for a while. And
yeah, I used to have what was called the everlasting treat ball, and you would stick it full of treats or food, and then let them mine 3 minutes.
Yep,
all of them. 3 minutes, they would get everything out of this ball and look at me and go, more.
Yep. There was a couple that we have a link that we'll give of some kind of must-have devices, that you will. And I was kind of looking through that list, and there was some what I thought might be fun ones. And this one actually relates more to cats. I grew up with cats, so they do love laser pointers. And this one looked really fun. It was an interactive laser pointer that sort of was automatic and would kind of keep the cats busy for a while. And it's only $25. So that's you're going to spend, I don't know, at least probably half that for a laser pointer. So it's not too bad for price. Some of the other things that kind of struck my attention, but probably still not going to get, was Piper does eat on a somewhat regular schedule. So I don't just leave food out constantly for her. And they do have some things like an automatic feeder that would give your dog or cat, a certain portion of food at a certain time every day, in case you missed it, or you had a busy day at the office and you couldn't get to feed the dog or cat. So some of those things are kind of fun. I'm not sure what else I would get though. So automatic
the old
cat
fashioned stuff seems to be.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things, it's less about toys and more about the automatic feeders, or like automatic cat litter boxes and stuff. Like those things are kind of a must have.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, and they've gotten, I mean, they've had automatic, litter boxes for a while, where it's just like it senses the cat breaks the beam, the eye beam, and after the cat gets out, it scrapes through the sand, the cat litter. But they've gotten even more high tech than that. I mean, some of these things are really, they sense, they have moisture sensors, and they, the whole 9 yards. It's kind of amazing how they've gotten.
Oh yeah, that's it. I saw 2 of those on my way through, which was one which is a smart dog toilet, in which your number 1, I'm going to use the numbers 1 and 2. Number 1 goes through the mesh top, and then it drains into some sort of a container
reservoir
on the side, reservoir, and then when that's full, you take it out and dispose of it. The other one, which I thought was interesting, was the Brilliant Pad automatic indoor dog potty. Now, for us who live in New England, the worst thing you want to do is take your dog out in the middle of a snowstorm.
I'm sure that's the same in Wyoming.
Okay,
yes.
yeah, okay,
yes.
so you know the feeling. So apparently this thing, okay, and mostly for folks at home, for folks who work during the day, it almost looks like a scroll with a pad in the middle. Dog goes on it. There's a camera that, senses what's going on. When the dog is finished, it will wrap it up into a little package of some sort, put it somewhere, and then give you a picture of the dog going.
Nice. That's just what I need. It's like
Yeah.
sends it to your
Something
phone.
like that.
Yeah.
I need something like that when I take her to the park. 'Cause I hate having to pick up after her.
Yeah, an automatic scooper. Yeah, it's a little like an outdoor Roomba that follows the dog. That won't freak the dog out.
This almost made me think of what they have with the diaper genie.
Yeah.
So you put the thing in, and it hermetically seals it up, and I mean, if it works, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, I still remember that. I still have memories of diaper genies. So glad I don't do that anymore. But the other one too. Both of these. Well, this one is it's got Wi-Fi. It's smart connected. It, like you said, it sends you a picture. It's a replaceable mat, like that. It wraps the doo-doo in, and so it packages it for you, so you don't have to really deal with it too much. That would be especially good for potty training, indoor house training the dogs. Because I remember that mess of training a dog when they're not trained yet. Interesting idea.
And then you were talking about pet feeders. This one I thought was the most interesting. It's called the SureFeed Microchip Pet Feeder. And it assumes that, well, you can do it one of two ways. It assumes your dog has a microchip. And if you have more than one pet, I've seen the feeders that you can get, but it looks like pets can get into them, other pets. So this would go specifically for the one animal, dog or cat, and when it gets near it and breaks the beam, will open up the food and will allow the pet to eat, and then it won't let anybody else in. If you don't have a microchipped dog, however, I guess you can buy a collar that has the chip in it. I used to have my dogs on a feeding schedule when I was home. I would rather feed them when I'm home rather than have them feed while I'm not home. But, with the technology now, I could get one of those self-cleaning dog potties, have the feeder right next to it. I could be out for 12 hours and the dog would be fine and never miss me.
So chipping is something you do now. Like you take when you get a pet, you take it to the vet and they insert a microchip under the skin that allows them to, it's basically an ID tag. It's a serial number for your dog, so that if the dog gets picked up by by a stranger, by the dog, the animal control officer, they have a scanner that they can scan and get your information and bring the dog back to you. So this seems an interesting another way to sort of a secondary usage for the microchip, which is it's sort of an NFC tag for your dog in a sense. Yeah.
Is Piper chipped?
She is, yes.
Yeah, my next one is going to be. We didn't have it with the first couple, but we're getting older and we can't run as fast. So the next one will be chipped.
Good idea. But the interesting, I mean, the microchip pet feeders they're not cheap. It's like this one's $180. But they have ones that are motion activated that are not microchipped that is like $40. So and they can, I think it says, I'm looking at the information, it says it can be set for a time. So like it will only open for the dog within a particular window of time as well, or cat. I say dog, but it could be cat as well. And then some of these have smart, smartphone apps that are connected to them to do various things. They'll tell you when they're eating and that sort of stuff. But that's where some of the expenses as well.
See, my thing with tech is it's to give me peace of mind if I'm gone long periods of time because of my work. I mean, Father, and both of you understand, working for the church, sometimes you are out 12 hours straight and you can't get back home. But some of this other stuff is like gimmicky. To me, it's gimmicky as a pet owner. And it's like, no, just give me something to make sure the dog is comfortable, the dog can do their business and not, I have to come home and clean a mess up. That kind of stuff is more what I'm interested in.
We don't want all the tech to take care of the animals for us. So that way, we just don't do anything, because part of the point of having a dog or a cat is that you are interacting with them and taking care of them. And, so if you have technology do it all, then why do you have an animal anyway?
That's so fun.
Right.
Yeah. Part of this is there's a huge industry, a pet industry, and they're pumping out products like crazy. It's another consumer thing. I mean, I think it's like some people spend like $30 billion a year on their pets in America. It's like a huge number, and everyone's trying to get their piece of the pie. And there's a temptation. And this is a spiritual element of this to be consumerist and be all about money, spending money as a way of expressing either my love for the pet or to make me look good to others, as a part of my self-esteem. And we have to be careful. Like there's one thing and this is overall with tech. Tech is there to serve a purpose. It helps us in our lives. It's not there as a way to waste money and make us feel good or look better to others. Then it becomes something else that could be sinful. And I think that's an important distinction, including with pet tech.
Well, that's why I threw this last thing on the list. Believe it or not, there is a genealogy kit for your pet. Okay? It's called Embark DNA Test. But like human DNA tests, there's also a health and benefit to it as well. A lot of people don't go for purebreds. I mean, we do just because we know the breed. and we understand the breed's needs. That's important. You have to know when you get a dog or a cat that these animals, certain ones are subject to certain diseases, certain maladies in their life. If you know that ahead of time, then you can sort of plan for things like pet insurance. But if you get a rescue dog, a lot of them are mixed breed and you don't know what they are. So apparently DNA is now coming to the rescue and giving you a profile of the dog's mixture so that you can know, okay, this is a Scottish Terrier and a Norfolk Terrier. Somebody has hip dysplasia in here, somebody has a breathing problem in here, and this way you cannot be caught by surprise later on. So I think that might be worth the money. Now, what isn't worth is finding the relatives of your pet, putting your pet, building a tree. That kind of stuff is superfluous. And people can say, well, that's gimmicky. Yeah, that part is gimmicky. But if my next dog comes from a shelter and it's a mixed breed, yeah, I want to find out what it is just so I can take care of it the right way, feed it the right way, and know what it's coming down the road.
Yeah. You don't want to do it just like your dog's related to some famous dog. Well, my dog's great-great-grandmother was Lassie.
Yeah, not interested. I'm still looking for the bank robbers in my family.
Yes, my dog was the dog of the Golden State Killer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other pet tech? I think that's all the stuff we had on our list of things we wanted to talk about. But that's a good start. I think we've come up with some good principles of the sorts of tech that's worthwhile versus that's frivolous or superfluous. I think everything we've talked here is mostly stayed on this side of not frivolous. Some of it gets a little on the edge, but there are use cases for everything we talked about. Good. Let's move on. I want to take a moment now to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including this time SAM, that's what they put on their patron list. Sam, maybe, Rob L, Joseph H, Tony L, and Gerardo E. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. All right, Father, you told me weeks ago that you wanted me to save the E3 discussion for when you're on, so I did. I know that both Joanne and I are not a big E3 type gamers. I have games that I like, and that sort of thing, but I don't have any consoles. I'd love to have a console, but I just don't have any right now. But Father, what did you see at E3 2021, which they skipped last year, right? They didn't have it?
No, there was a small E3 last year, but it was all virtual.
Oh, right. Okay.
And that was unfortunately the same this year. Is that the various gaming companies that participated all just created their kind of standalone video presentations, like Apple did at WWDC, and that's the COVID world that we live in.
Yeah.
I think next year they plan to do it in person again, and I think that will be when it finally kind of has the meat that I think we all want. I'm super excited about E3 because I'm a millennial, and so I grew up with these consoles. In fact, it was interesting. They pointed out Xbox turned 20 this year.
Wow.
So and I guess I'm feeling old at that point because I remember playing the original Xbox 20 years ago. So I'm involved in all of these kind of things because I play with my brother, and he and I are big into this kind of stuff. So we're always kind of watching the news. So E3 is the equivalent for gamers as WWDC is for Apple, and all of that sort of thing. So I'm not going to go into too much depth here because I feel like you two are going to just kind of give me the deer in the headlights look. So listeners, of course, if you want my take on something more specific, please reach out to me and I will be glad to talk. But I guess just a couple kind of key points. It was sort of universally acknowledged, if you will, at least through kind of social media, that Nintendo did the best, or at least it had the most exciting announcements. And I think part of the reason for that was Nintendo hasn't had an official kind of, they call them Nintendo Directs, where they announce new games and kind of in an official capacity, but they haven't done one of those in almost 2 years. They've had smaller sort of presentations throughout that time, but COVID just kind of messed all of this up. So Nintendo was, I think, the most anticipated. And so there was a number of things. One of the big announcements, I think, from them was a game called Metroid Dread. And if you've played the original Nintendo, you might have heard of Metroid. That's the original console it came out on. But this was important because they haven't had a main game from that in 19 years. So that hit some waves. The new Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, they released more footage on that, which was also big. My frustration with this, and it's totally on me. It's not on them, but I listened to too many rumors. And so a lot of the rumor mill of what was supposed to be announced didn't get announced. And so I was sort of disappointed on that. Things that they thought would be announced would be a new Nintendo Switch Pro is what they're kind of calling it. So not a new console, but an upgraded Nintendo Switch that would work with like 4K TVs and stuff, which supposedly is still coming down the road, but nothing official from Nintendo. So some of the things some of the games that I was hoping to announce, they didn't. But that's for another conversation. The other big one, I think, would have been Xbox and the new Halo game that's coming out this fall, Halo Infinite, for those of you who are aware of that. And I think one of the big things there is that they announced that they're going to have a free-to-play multiplayer aspect of it, which is not something that Halo has ever done. So I think that this is interesting because this will just draw in more players who don't want to pay for the actual game or the campaign, but they might if they get involved in the multiplayer and find that they really like it. So I think that's pretty cool. And then one of the perhaps underrated gems of the whole thing was Xbox announced an Xbox Series X mini fridge. And what's fun about this is if you look at the Xbox Series X, if you just Google an image of it, people were giving Xbox so much guff for the fact that it looks like a mini fridge. It's this big black box. And so Xbox, rather than sort of trying to explain it away or do anything, they embraced it and are creating a mini fridge. Not that I'm going to get one, mind you, but it's coming this Christmas, so perhaps the gamer in your life would need an Xbox mini fridge.
That is kind of awesome. I love it when companies sort of lean into criticism. Like, sure, okay, yeah, it looks like a fridge, so we'll make a fridge.
Well, and social media is just, it's such an interesting beast because they announced the Xbox Series X and they announced the PlayStation 5. And there was immediate comparisons on like what they looked like and critiques and comments. And some of them, of course, are just mean. But it's like everybody has an opinion. And yeah, it's nice to see Xbox sort of embracing the fun, side of this whole thing. So
that's cool. Any Star Wars games announcements? Was there anything new?
Not specifically, no. There are like a number of kind of older games that are being re-released, but nothing. I think EA is still working I think it's EA still working on a newer one.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing about that.
But I forget exactly the details on that one.
Okay, well, all right. So interesting. So thank you for sharing that. So listeners, please reach out to me. I'll talk more, but I'm probably Joanne's probably giving me this look that's like.
I'm okay. I'm surviving.
It's just not her thing. I'm always like, I want to get a PS5 or an Xbox. I want to play some of these games, but it's just not in the cards for me. It's too much I need to spend money on. That kids are too expensive. They're just too expensive.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to some of our headlines that we wanted to talk about. First one up is a nostalgia for me. This is the Hubble Space Telescope is sort of it's old and creaky. I sympathize because I'm old and creaky. The computers on the Hubble, which launched in 1990, by the way, and thus has a 1980s era computer, is starting to fail. Which God bless them.
That's
it's lasted
impressive.
This long. Yeah.
Really.
Now, everyone remembers the Hubble for when it first launched. It had an error, like a flaw in the mirror, but then NASA came back and they put a a software fix in that compensated for it, which is awesome. That's an amazing feat. And Hubble has been up there all this time. There are newer space telescopes that we have up there. There's the Webb and some other ones, but the Hubble is it's a nostalgic favorite, I think, for a lot of space fans. But there's an issue with the payload computer on the Hubble. They've attempted to reboot, because that's the first thing you do when you have a computer problem is you reboot it. And they have a degrading computer memory module. Oh, bad RAM. Everyone knows bad RAM. So they've attempted to switch to a backup. That didn't work. So it's in basically a hibernation mode, and I don't know if they plan to, go up and bring it in for kind of maneuver up and bring it in for servicing or what they have planned for it. But it's awesome that it's been up there this long.
Computing back in the 80s is definitely different than now.
Oh yeah.
So yes, when you say that's an impressive thing, it is, for it to be working this long. Usually by now, most of the stuff that was thrown up there is gone.
40 years?
Yeah. So it's still creaking, and hey, I hope I keep creaking with it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, because it has to be hardened against radiation and cold and the heat, because of the extremes of both, as you're in the sun or you're in the dark. So it is amazing that these things survive this long.
And I give them credit for wanting to keep it going, because to build a new one would just be astronomical at this point.
No pun intended.
Yeah, really. Really, no, it's late. No, to build another one, I think would be cost ineffective.
Yes.
So
they've got newer ones up there, but if you can keep this stuff going for as long as possible, it's more than paid for itself in the discoveries it's made. Yeah. So awesome. Keep going, Hubble. So the next story I wanted to talk about is this. It's a very interesting story. Frank McCourt is a billionaire real estate guy. He used to own the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's actually from Boston originally. Moved to L.A., where he became famous and rich, like all people. And he's an older guy, but he's kind of seen one of the problems that a lot of us have recognized is in social media and the monolithic aspect of Twitter and Facebook pretty much controlling social media. And the reason I talk to people all the time, everyone hates Facebook and Twitter, but nobody leaves, even though there are alternatives, because you'd have to rebuild from scratch.
Well, and nobody's on the other platforms, or your friends aren't on the other platforms.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. They won't leave because they're afraid nobody's going to go either. Like, everybody has to go at once or nobody goes anywhere. Well, McCord has come up with this idea he's calling Project Liberty, which is basically a blockchain version of the social graph. And what that is it's making, or even like an open source version of a social media connection, so of your social network. And what that means is it would be a publicly accessible database of all of your social connections, all your friends' connections, basically, whether the people you follow or people you're friends with, people who follow you. And that's your social graph. That's what it's called. Facebook calls it. And if that's one of the things that makes Facebook such a powerhouse, is because they own it, they control it, they have that data. You can't just take it with you. But if you make it publicly accessible, then any company, any social media company can hook into that and say, look, you already have your social network. We'll give you these tools for communicating with people via these people. And it becomes about competition about who can create the better tool, rather than who can lock everybody into the same place, the same network. And I love the idea. I don't know how practical it is, but I think I would love to see some competition for the big two social media networks.
If work wasn't on, I've said this before here, if work wasn't on Facebook, if my family wasn't on Facebook, I wouldn't be on Facebook, just because of what I consider the data suck. That's what they do. And yes, there is a price to having things that are free, but there's also should be a responsibility, because you're dealing with people's information that some of it's frivolous, but a lot of it is important. to them at least. Maybe not to you, but to them. And if somebody can come up with something that will, help alleviate some of that and maybe kind of put folks on notice and ease up, because I'm not on Twitter anymore, only because nobody's there. We have a Twitter account, but I don't see anybody on it. So we have to go where the people are, and that's Facebook, Instagram. They tell us that all the time. You've got to be where they are if you want to get your message across.
Twitter has become, for many people, a very toxic environment. I've been on Twitter more lately, and I could see how easy it is to slip into the more toxic kinds of conversations that go on there. It's a tempest in a tiny teapot a lot of times.
Yeah.
Decentralizing the whole thing, I think, could have some good benefits. One of the things is, you make it easier move from one platform to another. So if you get banned on one, it doesn't mean you're blocked out of all your friend relationships with people. On the other hand, if you get banned for a good reason, that could follow you. Like you are tied to your social graph. So like that, this is, if you're misbehaving, that behavior stays with you. And I think it's good because it might remove some of the anonymity that people sometimes have, and like they create profile after profile after profile, fake profiles to harass people, to troll and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of if it can deal with some of that stuff and authenticating people, and I think I could go a long way to helping with some of this.
I think that's just going to be a challenge to try to see to fruition, though. I love the idea of it, but like I don't see Facebook, like going away or even having a competition enough that enough people would leave Facebook to go to a competing service.
Well, this is the problem, right? In order, like this, it's still the same hurdle. You're just going to a decentralized alternate social network. Facebook is not going to implement this, so you're going to have to get everybody who's willing to leap. You got to convince people to leap off of Facebook to this other thing, and that's going to be the big hurdle. If we can get people off, that might be enough. But
I find more people are willing to just delete social media altogether rather than just jump to a different one.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I love it, the idea, but I don't see it happening.
Right. I agree. They have a big climb ahead of them. I wish them all the best, but it's a big climb. Yeah. So, and then another story I want to talk about is Apple has announced or released its public betas for all its operating systems: iOS, iPadOS, watchOS, Monterey, macOS.
Monterey's not out yet.
Oh, it's not out yet. Okay,
no.
just the other three. And so, have you all leapt onto the betas?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Which ones have got you riding close to the edge here, Father? What do you got? What did you go with?
So I just a couple hours ago downloaded the iOS 15 beta for my phone, and it really doesn't feel that much different. Actually, it's just kind of quickly going through my apps. They all work. No initial kind of red flags or catastrophes. Some of the things look slightly different, but not too bad. The weather app is a lot better. I like that. There's more information on that. Notifications are now sort of grouped into, I forget exactly what they call them.
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, the notifications are done better.
They're doing smarter notifications, like at different times of the day and grouping them together. Yeah, I like that.
There's this whole thing with they've expanded the do not disturb to now include, I think they call it do not disturb, sleep, personal, and work. And so you can like
focus
set
modes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. You can set certain apps to send notifications, like if you're on personal, but not go through if you're on work mode, or if you're on sleep, or so some of those are kind of fun. I haven't really played with them yet, but yeah, I always like to get the new beta on my phone. So,
and Joanne, what did you install?
Oh, I've got iPadOS 15, and I have widgets
That's the one I'm looking forward to, is widgets on my iPad.
Yes, I have actual widgets now that I don't know what to do with and how to make them bigger and take up half a screen. I haven't figured that out yet, because this is only like less than an hour old. So, but so far I've been clicking my apps too, to make sure nothing's, falling apart.
No showstoppers. Yeah.
Yeah, if my poor Evernote goes down, I'm dead. But it didn't. But no, I'm looking forward to, especially the notification, especially the bigger widgets. And I want to get into QuickNote, because I think at some point I'm looking at getting, I hate to say I want to get out of Evernote because I've been with it forever. But if this QuickNote thing turns out to be something that's going to be really super useful, then I may just grab all my Evernote stuff and bring it into Notes. And I've got about 6 months till my subscription comes up again. So I'm going to see what I'm going to do in those 6 months and see what happens.
So QuickNote is the thing where you tap the screen with your Apple Pencil and it pops up, and it's very quick to take a note right off the bat like that. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it has the app library now. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but
right. So I have not leapt into the betas, and I'm probably going to hold back. So one of the things is that a lot of the best features, now some of these features like the widgets on the iPad are really, I don't look for that. But some of the best stuff is the stuff that integrates between all the devices, between the Mac and the iPad and the iPhone and the watch. And Monterey's not out, and I don't want to ride on the edge and convert all my stuff. Like the watch is the worst beta to do, because if it breaks your watch, you got to go to the store.
Yeah.
Like you can't do anything. You can't reboot it yourself. So that's the one that's like the worst. And in general, my feeling with public betas, especially like of the operating systems, is I generally wait till the second public beta to get all the show-stopping error. Like, yeah, but you mentioned you don't see any. And this, I think I've heard that this is a less of a leap in operating systems.
Well, this is the second beta. When I pulled it in, it said it was the second public beta.
Second
beta
public, really?
2. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's what it said.
Huh. Because there've been a couple of developer betas already, and I've heard some developers complaining. But I'm going to hold off a little bit, couple weeks. It's very tempting. It is very tempting. But yeah.
And I think it would be just important to throw this out there, that if you are an average user and you don't want to risk things, just wait for the public release in the fall. But if you're adventurous and if you're willing to, make sure to back up your device before you do this. But if you're adventurous and you're willing to take that risk, it can be a lot of fun. But it definitely doesn't have any it doesn't have a new feature that's just so incredibly necessary. I mean, you could be on, 2 versions of iOS ago and you can still do just about everything. So
that's one of the reasons why I don't do it on my phone, because my phone is so important and my watch is also important and the computer is. But the iPad, I have a little bit of leeway there. So, and I have a backup iPad. So if anything happens, I can always switch. So that's why the new iPad got it, because it's supposed to be able to, run on this one very well.
In my descending order of things that I cannot do without, so I won't put the beta, is my Mac, because I needed to, like this Mac anyway, that I'm working on. I have a laptop that I might install the Monterey public beta on because it's not as important. But this Mac, my watch, because it's really hard to recover from that. My phone, because the phone is just too important. And then the iPad, because that, like you said, Joanne, it's less vital to my daily workflow. And frankly, I like the idea of getting those widgets on the home screen. That's just really nice idea. Awesome. So, we'll see how it goes. I'll check in with you guys as we go on through the summer, see how it's going with the beta, see how it is. Excellent. So let's move quickly to our picks of the week. Joanne, what's your pick this week?
My pick is an old favorite of mine called Flipboard. It's a news aggregator, but I find it, especially on an iPad, to be extremely useful. I can't seem to use it on the phone because of the size. I don't have a Max phone. But on an iPad, it is the perfect thing to be able to, I like, because you go through and it'll ask you, what would you like to see? So I have pets, I have Mac software, I have Broadway musicals, genealogy. Yes, I want the news of the day. And then it goes out and finds all these things. Now, normally in an aggregator would just be a whole bunch of lists, but these are the actual pages of the sites, or close facsimile, so that when you click on it, you go to that page and you read right off the site. Now, buyer beware, it is free. So some of these pages are going to have ads on them that don't let you read anything. You're also going to come across the occasional, oh, you don't pay for this content. And then there's then if it's out of this country, it's the lovely, European, please accept the cookies. I accept these cookies all the time. But it still is, for me, the best way for me to get news from all over, because newspapers now are gone, basically, or if you subscribe to your home newspaper, it's usually on your iPad too. But I just like it a lot. And then I can change, if I want to create my own flipboards to share with other people, you can do that. I don't do that. I just want, this is just content. I want to see stuff. And sometimes, Dom, this is where I get stuff to add to our show here, because I'll find an article that's really interesting and go, ooh, I can take it from Flipboard and put it right into our lovely little Slack.
Yeah, there have been a lot of news aggregators over the years, especially for iPad. But this was the first one. This was, for a lot of people, this was the reason to get an iPad 10 years ago, because this was such a great app for aggregating content. You could put RSS feeds in it. You could put your Twitter feed or your Facebook feed, and it will aggregate articles that your friends share on Twitter or Facebook and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a great little app. It's been around forever.
And what's the first thing I flip to? How to restore your iPhone from iOS 15 beta back to iOS 14. We'll be saving that one for you, Father.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was just going to say that Flipboard was, I think, what I went to when the whole RSS feed Google Reader thing went away. And Flipboard was my replacement for that. And so I do really, really like Flipboard.
Yeah, it's been great. All right, awesome. Father, what's your pick this week?
So mine deals with pet tech. And this is actually, it's in response to one of Joanne's critiques of the AirTag whole thing on putting those for tracking dogs or cats. Mine is a silicone case that's compatible with AirTags, and it's made for a dog collar. So it's $9. It's this little silicone dark blue case that you stick the AirTag in if you want to use that for your tracker. But what it does is it doesn't dangle like your tags do. It actually has slots in the case where it will lie flat against the collar and essentially be part of the collar rather than hang low. So hopefully Piper's not going to have one of these, but hopefully your dog wouldn't chew on it because it would be flush against their collar.
Yeah, from looking at it, that doesn't look like something they can get to.
Mm-hmm. Right. Unless the collar were really loose, which
right.
they'd be able to get the collar off, and then
right, then
really
they'd be out of the collar.
Yeah, that's a good one. Nice, inexpensive, $8.99. Yeah, I found with a lot of the AirTag stuff that I've been trying out is these cases that some of them, the inexpensive ones, are really cheaply made and fall apart. This one doesn't look like that. This one looks like it's it's silicone, so it's not like the best thing ever in the world, but it doesn't look like it's going to fall. It looks like prone to falling apart and decaying really quick. So that's good. Awesome. So my pick is another one of these tiny, I'm going through my tiny little apps that are in my menu bar, and I've had this one forever. And this is called Quitter for Mac OS. It's from the programmer Marco Arment, who does a lot of great apps. Does my favorite podcast app called Overcast. But Quitter it's a small app that does two things really well, or one thing in a couple different ways really well. What you do is there are apps that are distracting, that distract me from work, and I want them to go away after a while. Like if I'm going to check Twitter, and then I'm going to stop, and then I don't always remember to quit it. So sometimes it hangs out there, and I'm like, oh, I'll just check it again for a minute. What Quitter does is you tell it, okay, these apps, after 10 minutes, hide this app, or after 15 minutes, quit this app, and take it away. And that's all it does. It's a very simple little program that just removes the temptation to deal with these, to use these apps when you're trying to do your work. So what do I have in there? So like I have Evernote actually in there, and I have Airtable. Now those are programs that I use. They're productivity apps. But once I'm done using them, I don't want them cluttering up my screen. I want my screen nice and clean and clear. And so it hides them after a while. That with photos, we'll tend to one of the things I do with photos is I have a script. When my wife, it's a complicated thing, but when my wife comes home, her phone knows to upload all of her new photos to Dropbox, a folder that we share, and I have Hazel looking at that Dropbox, and it runs a script that imports all those photos into my iPhoto library so that we have one family iPhoto library, because Apple has not figured out how to do a family photo library. I don't know why, but they still haven't figured it out. Anyway, so this is my solution. But that means that Photos which is a resource-intensive program, is running in the background, and I don't want it to stay running in the background. So after 20 minutes, after launching, or after the last time I use it, so inactivity, it quits. I do that with Tweetbot. I do that with Preview. It's just a simple little, it's free, and it's a simple little app. It does one thing, and it does it well. And that's the epitome of these menu bar apps. Does it work with Solitaire? Yes. Okay, good. In fact, it probably comes with that rule built into it. Probably. So that's it. Those are our picks this week. All right. So that'll do it for us. So what did you think of our discussion? If you have any questions on E3 for Father, if you have any ideas for cool pet tech that we missed, or questions about pet tech, or anything else we've discussed, you can let us know by giving us some feedback at sqpn.com/technology, or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And you'll find links from our discussion to everything we talked about and our picks of the week in our show notes at sqpn.com. Please, I'm asking you, begging you, go to Apple Podcasts right now, and write a review. Give us a nice 5-star review. We haven't had one in ages, and I'm feeling kind of sad and neglected that maybe you guys don't like this show. And, but maybe you do. Do you like the guilt trip I'm laying on there really thick? Catholic guilt. Go to Apple Podcasts or one of the podcast directories, write a review for us. I would really appreciate it. And share the podcast with your friends. Help us grow this wonderful community of listeners as we help each other with our tech. Until next time, Joanne Mercier, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology. Thanks, Dom. Father Andrew Kinstetter, thank you as well.
Absolutely.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. The storms have held off. We've been able to complete the whole episode. And thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.